Black Lives Matter. Dijon Kizzee,
Safe streets.
the county and Pasadena and Glendale and the city of LA, trusting the internet, the slow streets, Oakland, San Francisco, Michael Schneider, Streets for All, protected bike lanes, downtown, 7th Street, Avalon, Nithya Raman, protected bus lanes, protected bikeways, Streets LA and LADOT.
The case of the disappearing bike lane, more people with kids on their bikes.
The big tranche of highway funding, Trump highway pork, paving California for drivers. Caltrans is Godzilla. Like the 5 freeways, like this shotgun loaded, pointing at downtown LA. Orange County, the Valley, East LA, Downey, Commerce, Industry, Santa Fe Springs, car-centric. Caltrans and Metro highway program bearing down at neighborhoods, like taking out homes. Our generation's legacy, shitloads of cars and global warming and asthma and a dying planet, pushing sustainability to the brink. People at leadership like the Metro Board are saying this is excessive and needs to be reined in. We need to kill these projects and to invest in modes that we need for the future, which is rail and bike and transit and walking, and not squander billions and billions on wider freeways, gobbling up vast amounts of money.
How are you doing? Melanie, Curry, Streetsblog, California.
We're surviving. Joe.
We have Joe Linton,
Hey.
Streetsblog with the red justice fist from Streetsblog, Los Angeles. Black Lives Matter. And guess who else? It's Don.
Hey.
Hello.
Hello. Sorry I'm late.
Hey.
Happy 2021.
2021. Already looking crazy like 2020.
Could be the new normal. We'll see.
I think it looks crazier than 2020, but so far.
Certainly more deadly in terms of COVID.
Yeah.
It's not going down yet.
Yeah.
Mm.
Okay. Well, I was trying to keep it upbeat.
Sorry.
You got
But you were trying to keep a 2020 year in review upbeat.
Well,
luck.
like putting it behind us. But was it a good year for bikes?
Maybe. Yeah. I mean, there are some things about it that were really good. Like bike shops went nuts. People couldn't get their hands on enough bikes. People were stuck at home and were finding ways to ride around. Some streets got made into safe streets. That was good for some neighborhoods. Like, it's awesome to see people out biking and walking in the middle of the street. It's like some people's idea of heaven, mine too. But in some neighborhoods that was crazy great. And yeah, the thing about the bike shops running out of supply, that's woohoo. Let's just keep that sustained. So yeah, in some ways, it was a really good year for bikes. Yeah. And I would also say that in terms of state leadership, I saw a real shift in attention to sustainable transportation, especially bikes, at the State Department of Transportation at Caltrans in a way that we haven't seen before. And we didn't see that really. It's been coming a little bit, but at the beginning of 2020, there was a push that has been interesting to watch snowball a little bit. It's also up there on the high level, so we'll see how it works on the ground.
Talk about that though. What's changed at Caltrans? Because it sure feels like they're widening highways through LA County.
They are still doing that. Yeah. Well, I mean, can you blame the fact that maybe it takes forever to plan? I don't know. Part of that is there was a lot of gas tax money, and that got deployed in the last few years, so that's still happening. Yeah, they're still widening highways, but just before 2020 started, there was a new leader at Caltrans who is an outspoken advocate for sustainable transportation, walking, biking, and transit. His name's Tokes Omishakin. He came from Tennessee. I hope that's right. He's really awesome. And so he is like the head, literally the figurehead of Caltrans. And even though that's like kind of at a rarefied level, because it's way up there, and Caltrans has this headquarters in Sacramento, and then they have 12 different districts that are in many ways largely independent. The direction from the top is completely new, and the push is to change that. And there are other things at Caltrans that are happening, like they have a sustainability department that they never had before. So they have staff at the top level that are doing things that staff at the top level at Caltrans never did before. That will take forever to translate to the districts, but it is a big change. And one of the ways that happened, that expressed itself, was a fight earlier in the year about the SHOP program. So SHOPP, State Highway Operations Performance Program, something like that. It's one of the major funding sources for maintenance on state highways. And usually they just say, this is, like cities and locals say, this is what we want to spend our money on, usually highway widenings, right? Or fix this road, make it wider, make it safer. And this year, Caltrans from the top said, we want money in that program to go to bike and walking. And some of that was like in response to the move the year before to try to get a complete streets bill through that failed. But they were responding to political pressure.
That Caltrans sabotaged, saying we can't discuss spending legislation.
Right. And they sabotaged it by saying it would be way too expensive. So then in the meantime, the new leadership came on. So maybe he can say, oh, that wasn't me. But he said, we're going to do something about this. So they set aside some money within that program for the first time, specifically for bike, ped, and walk. So that's in addition to the major source of funding for active transportation in California, which is the active transportation program. And that as well, advocates for years have been saying, we need to make this a better program. We need more money. It's a great program, but way too many people are applying for money. So there's way more projects than they have money for. This year, in fact, a couple months ago, there was a push from the top levels to put more money in that program. I've never heard people at the California Transportation Commission say, we need to put a lot more money into the ATP, which is the Active Transportation Program. So in that sense, yeah, things are looking better. We're nowhere near where we need to be, but there's more money. There's a push for more money, specifically for bikes and peds. And then there's attention being paid to it at the highest levels. So, I mean, one thing that's good is that means that people like us on the ground level can keep saying, hey, dude, Caltrans, you said you were going to do this, and we can call them to account.
I mean, that sounds good. It's just that it requires a lot of energy, a lot of political energy. Yeah. And, it's like you need people with the energy to hound Caltrans, and maybe that exists right now, but we don't know that that's going to exist next year or the year after. Mm-hmm. They, I don't know. I mean, the gas tax, I was always kind of curious about how that was going to play out. It's like the gas tax is funding more road construction, freeway widenings at the behest of whatever political body is making these decisions, rather than having a policy that gives these political bodies no choice but to implement this. So,
but I would say, I mean, it's not the revolution, but the gas tax was fought tooth and nail by the petroleum industries, who wrote editorials in the LA Times saying it was dead, and impugning Kevin De Leon, who's now a city council member. I mean, the people who fought the gas tax are, I want to say are enemies of people who are working for safe streets and sustainability and public health and, fighting global warming. So I don't, it's not, battleships don't turn around in a day, but I think that I think the gas tax remains a good positive step, and not not 20 steps in the right direction, but a difficult, heavy lift step in the right direction. But that's a couple years ago, and it was fought tooth and nail in the legislature, and then it was fought to be repealed. So I mean, it's weathered. It's got scars on it already, and it's still very young. So we'll see.
Well, and also it had to happen. The history of funding transportation was like the idea that the gas tax was a user fee was just failing, and it had been failing for years, and the whole system was just insane. And so one of the things that the gas tax did was sort of clarify that. It made the sources of funding and the output at least clear. So like, there's a certain number of programs, and each of those programs you do need to fight to make sure that they go in the right direction. Like, for example, the congested corridors program needs to not go towards freeways. And that's a fight. There are people who are fighting it, though. But to your point, that's actually a good point. Like, what's going to happen to advocacy in the future? Like,
it's just tiring. It's like there's just a lot of volunteer hours required to get them to do the right thing. I mean, I was totally for the gas tax. I advocated for it. I, posted about it, argued about it, everything in favor of it. It's just, I was also sort of in the back of my mind, I was like, okay, it's also going to fund mostly, freeways, unless Caltrans changes its policy, which they didn't, I guess.
But here's the caveat I would say on that is, in the past, the state budget, which is, income taxes, property taxes, which is paid by everyone, was subsidizing the transportation budget. So for sure. I would rather drivers pay for this than
absolutely
everyone pay for this. And when drivers pay for this, the state can afford programs for housing, programs for education. Transportation has been a drain on the general budget and continues to be, but less so under the gas tax.
Okay. So you're saying they're reallocating currently what they have been sapping from the general fund. They're now reallocating that to housing. They've done this, or there's plans to do this kind of thing, or good programs, social programs, whatever.
It's COVID, recession, the budget's fucked up right now. So it's not a one for one replacement, but
or in the years since the gas tax, they've earmarked money that previously was going to highways, and now they've transferred that money to social programs. Or are they still draining both? You know what I mean? Are they still taking gas tax money plus still draining the general fund? Are they?
Yeah.
They are. Okay.
But less so.
Less so? They have been reallocating money?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know the inner workings of
nor do I know the line items of the state budget. But in broadly, by making drivers pay on a per gallon basis for transportation facilities, it decreases the pressure to use general fund for those expenditures. And did it turn around? No, it didn't. But it's a step in the right direction. It's beginning to turn the priorities.
That would be interesting to get into the weeds of it and see these budget line items and determine and then hound them on those points. It's like, hey, you guys are still sapping money from the general fund for these freeway projects. Let's change that. Let's reallocate that. That would be a big deal, I think, for transit advocates to get into, because we then are fully transferring the burden of maintaining our roads to car drivers rather than supplementing. And, I I'm kind of a cynical type of person when it comes to these things. I would almost feel like they're not gonna, reallocate money. I think they're just gonna add to it.
That's happened too. Sorry,
Yeah.
Melanie. Go for it.
Sorry. It's not even really a matter of reallocating. Like right now, transportation has a lot of money because of SB1. But another large source of money for transportation comes from local sales taxes that have been passed like regionally, like LA has Measure
MRC and A.
Right. So there's a bunch in the Bay Area. Other places have passed them with some success or not. And usually those have like a laundry list of projects attached to them. And in order to get 2/3 majority vote, you get everybody involved. So I know, for example, the one in the Bay Area in Alameda County, no, Bay Area wide, Alameda County, they got labor on board because they were building more roads and also transit because they were going to add to BART. They had like a list of specific projects. So once those pass, everybody, because it's sales tax, everybody is paying the sales tax and it goes into all of those projects. So that's one of the things to think about, that one of the ways that transportation gets funded is not through SB1, it's through sales tax on everything that everybody buys. So that complicates it. And I was going to say something else and I totally forgot because this has a tendency to get so wonky. Oh, road charge. So they're also kicking around the idea still of doing a road charge. It hasn't really gone anywhere yet. They did like a little test and they're going to do another little test. But it's,
can you explain that road charge a little bit?
So a road charge would be a way to charge people per mile. The idea being like, if you drive more, you pay more. If you have a heavier car, you pay more. Like it would be based on all these different things. So
now people, I guess mostly libertarian leaning people are always talking about privacy and that they're going to have to track your car. It's like, why can't they just at the smog check your odometer? Why do they even have to have a GPS monitor on your car and make it all scary to libertarian groups and so forth? They could just check your mileage, right?
Right. And that was the first step that they did. They came up with a little system where you would report, you take a picture of your odometer. They had different ways where they were just testing this in order to get over that hump, because that will always be the argument. So then the next thing they have to test, I think, is how they might collect money, because how do you pay at the pump? How do you do that? It's not really at the pump because there's electric cars involved that don't go to the pump. So they're still working it out. I think they're kind of like just slow walking it because they could figure it out a lot faster if they really wanted to. The passage of SB1 gave them a little bit of leeway, though, because now they have all this money coming in. There's not so much pressure to make it happen right away. It was desperate before SB1 passed.
Oregon is doing more on it. It's sometimes called a mileage-based user fee. There are people on both sides of the aisle that like it. So it may be something that can move forward, and folks like Blumenauer, the congressman, bicycle caucus person from Oregon, is a big proponent of it. I mean, so progressive transportation people are looking to it. I feel like California is very much fucking around and not really making it happen. So
wouldn't it be nice if it happened at the federal level? Woohoo!
Well, I would think that at smog inspection, they just look at your odometer, report it to the state, then the state sends you a bill when you, like I just did the smog on my Toyota. I had to get it smogged first. I paid the $60 or $70, whatever it was. Then I go to the DMV site. They already would have a record of my odometer, and they would just say, this is your renewal fee, like the rest of it, based on your mileage. Right. I would think that'd be a simple way to do it. But
maybe, but you want to know something depressing? I just found out because someone wrote about this for Streetsblog. A lot of counties in California don't even require smog tests. So
really,
yeah.
I thought that was like a statewide thing.
Me too. Only the counties that the big urban counties. Yeah, so
I think it's
it was shocking and depressing to discover that.
Isn't it the counties with like non-attainment status? Like, so it's the urban ones, and I believe it's the Central Valley too.
Wow.
Yeah. So all of the far Northern California ones, you don't even have to do a smog test.
It's been a while
so crazy
since anyone used the word bike.
Well, we're talking about 2020.
Yeah.
I don't think bikes were the story in 2020. I mean, there was a big, I believe it was a New Yorker article that talked about how, COVID was the story of the year until, Black Lives Matter became the story of the year. And I think that I think we really need to acknowledge those. I mean, people in Los Angeles, Dijon Kizzee was, riding a bike in South Los Angeles, and the LA sheriffs, ended his life on the pretext of a traffic stop, and he's not alone. How many officer involved shootings do you think LA County, according to the LA Times, we got in 2020? Who wants to guess? How many people killed, according to coroner records?
Shootings in Los Angeles in 2020?
How many?
Los Angeles City?
LA County, coroner records, officer involved shooting, cause of death.
250.
34 people, 18 by LA sheriffs, 9 by LAPD, 3 by Long Beach, 2 Pasadena, 2 CHP, and 1 Torrance.
Wait, you're saying officer involved shootings and it resulted in a death?
Right.
No. Okay. Yeah.
Were those
coroner?
Okay, gotcha.
So those.
And some of those.
You're not talking about just traffic stops. You're talking about all officer involved shootings.
Right. I'm talking about deaths. That the cause of death was officer involved shooting. So I mean, I think it's I think that bicycling's important, but I mean I think it's important to acknowledge that was the big story. I mean, that COVID and Black Lives Matter are the 2020 year in review. I mean, we can talk more about bikes, but I mean, I think we really need to acknowledge that up front.
Yeah, totally.
One of the ways
on the big picture, those are the stories.
Yeah.
In terms of biking
really
news,
came forward is in that the stories about safe streets. City Lab did that article a couple days ago where they sort of traced what happened in 2020 around safe streets. And it was really good because for a lot of people, it was an amazing, like, wow, here's a benefit that we get. Here we're all tied down, we're locked up, and COVID's terrible. And this is like a playground on our streets. And Oakland was a really good example of where the city said, well, we want this to be fair, so we're going to put them in all the neighborhoods, but they put them in neighborhoods where the problem was not solved by putting up barriers. And the people in some of those neighborhoods were like, once again, you guys come in with a solution that does nobody any good, because we're not going to be out here walking in the street just because you put up a barrier. And it caused yet another conversation that Oakland is kind of prepared itself for, about how, traffic safety means one thing in a well-off white neighborhood and something completely different in a neighborhood that's mostly people of color. And it's just like night and day. So they had the hard conversations there. The solutions weren't, revolutionary, and probably the solutions weren't there. It's ongoing. They need to talk about policing and other issues that haven't been solved. But it forced people to kind of come up short and realize, oh, you can't just say, okay, let's make every quiet street into a front yard for the people living on that street. It's not going to work that way.
Yeah, I think the story of the LA calls them slow streets, mm-hmm. and the county and Pasadena and Glendale and the city of LA. I think those are the ones who did it. All did these programs and did it in ways that were extraordinarily wimpy, and over the course of the year further watered them down. And now that there's a motion to make them permanent, want to water them down even more, to turn them from a sandwich board sign that cars drive around and knock over to a sign on the parkway, like in the grass next to the street, so drivers will speed past it without even knowing it exists. So I mean, I think, you know, I'm someone who, I mean, Streets for All made a real push. It took LA a while. There was a false start, and, you know, and then a rollout. I think that there were big differences in how they're received. That some of the, mostly on the West Side, some of the program have been fairly successful, and people, at least from social media, I mean, I feel like the story of 2020 for me is like trusting the internet and not trusting my eyes and my legs. So, but so at least according to the internet, like some of the calmer, some of the West Side, mostly West Side streets, people feel like it was a notable improvement. And places like here in Koreatown, I mean, my wife and my daughter just biked down 4th Street, which, you know, has long been something that we pushed to become a bike boulevard, and was designated a slow street. And, you know, they got honked at, and a driver like aggressively, you know, passed, you know, a 7-year-old on her bike, you know, my daughter. So, I mean, I think the slow streets have been a big, you know, failure. I think it's been a big failure for Los Angeles, in that the city is unwilling to date to really do diverters, to really make something where cars would need to fucking drive around the block instead of and let bikes and peds go straight through. So I don't know. I think it's, like I said, it started wimpy and got watered down, and it's being watered down further. So it's a big disappointment for me.
Has anyone tried any like DIY, like just hauling out a bunch of big planters and sticking them in the street?
Rich people do that to keep cars out of their neighborhoods, but it hasn't been the case that I'm aware of. There have been a little bit of DIYs, like handmade signs and stuff attached to some of the things, sort of.
Yeah, there's people, I mean, when you drive through residential areas, people put out those signs with it's like a fluorescent kid with a sign that says slow, like it's a
sign that says drive like your kid lives here.
Yeah.
which is affirming drivers to begin with, so it frustrates me.
What do you mean affirming drivers?
Like you should say, like, walk or bike if at all possible. If you really need to drive like your kids live here, something like that. You know, it's telling people to drive. I go by that sign on a bike and I think, like, are you telling me to drive? Really? You know, is that what you want? Yeah. I take it, and there's a lot of signs that are used for sort of traffic calming stuff that are very you know, that assume that everyone drives. Yeah.
I guess I kind of saw it as like, we're only speaking to drivers. And if you I mean, it's hard to read those signs, like the slow streets, when they put it in the neighborhood where my office is in Los Feliz. And at first I thought it was some kind of maybe a parade route or something that was happening, whatever it was. And I couldn't see the sign. Like I couldn't read everything on the sign. I just saw like slow down. So it definitely was wimpy. It was just, I mean, it didn't, it didn't have much effect. Like I didn't see people walking more in the street or really much of a change in my neighborhood. But
yeah, if you walk down the middle of the street in Koreatown, you know, you would get honked at and possibly hit, you know, by drivers.
Yeah.
You know, and the sign says no through traffic, and you know, hundreds of cars go down that block every hour, you know, through traffic. Nobody, I mean, A, it's only in English, B, it's in a size that's hard for drivers to read, you know, and C,
by the time you come across
it, you can't expect drivers to do the right thing, you know.
And by the time you come across it, you're already, you know, on that street. You're not going to turn around just because some sandwich board says it's not a through street.
Right.
Yeah.
And Waze is probably sending them that way too.
That's another thing.
Yeah. Well, the good news is, at least from what I saw, the city gives Waze, and Google Maps is where I saw it. So, and they work with Waze, right? It's like part of the
same. They own Waze, yeah.
Corporation. So, I actually tested it to like, I started at the beginning and went to the end of a safe street and asked it as a driver, like how to get there. And Waze would direct me in a box around the safe street. And when I asked for bike and walk directions, it would direct me on the slow street. So
that's amazing. That's actually amazing.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, it's, you know, little, whatever, the tiny steps.
That's kind of incredible, actually. I mean, that's a lot of power right there. Sandwich board or not, if the city can designate a street as a safe street and then force ways to direct people around that street, that's way better than a sandwich board.
Well, here's the bad news is LADOT apparently like gave these streets to Google, whatever, reportedly, and then advocates spotted that Google was showing the slow streets in Oakland and in San Francisco and not in Los Angeles. And so Michael Schneider, the founder of Streets for All, you know, got on the horn with Google and said, hey, if you're going to do it up there, you got to do it here too. And, you know, and actually DOT, and we first asked DOT, like, hey, how come this shows in San Francisco and not in LA? And DOT was like, I don't know, like we tell them what the streets are, like it's up to them what they want to do. And it's like, so anyway, so it.
And Michael Schneider got on the horn with Google. I talked to somebody at Google and they changed it.
Yeah, it took some advocacy, at least like bugging the DOT and bugging Google, and it came around to them displaying it. I mean, it's still it's
okay.
Like,
that's the bike story of 2020 for me thus far. That's good. That's pretty incredible. You can't get anybody on the phone at Google.
Yeah, how did he get that number?
I don't know.
He probably knows a bunch of people there.
I've reported things on Google Maps and seen them fixed. You mean you can report problems with Google? I mean, it's not.
But that's like a major, like that's you could. I mean, if you could report that, that'd be great. But I have a feeling, Michael, he's kind of. I think he's very involved in the tech world. He probably knew some people there.
Yeah, that's what I think too.
Okay.
Well, you know.
Hey, we got it.
Sometimes.
So far, I'm checking that one off right now as the story of 2020 for bikes. Let's see what happens, but let's see what else we can figure out here.
So I think it's been so during the I want to talk about sort of city bikeway implementation. In the recent years, like under Villaraigosa, the mayor had a direction and had a minimum mileage that the DOT was doing, and we saw LA saw bikeway mileage ramp up under Villaraigosa in a big way. So, and they recently,
and you've been doing a
changed
great job of monitoring that, Joe. I gotta say, kudos to you. You've been like measuring every inch of bike lanes, and this has been going on for years. Actually, that you've been doing this. So thank you.
I'm the bike community's spreadsheet guy.
Yes, thank you so much, man. Thank you so much.
Part of it is that DOT doesn't know what they're doing. So DOT will say, we did 20 miles. And I'll say, well, what about the LA River bike path bridges? And they're like, oh yeah, we did 21 miles. So it's like they, you know, whatever. There's different things in different silos in the city. And as a bicyclist, you know, I use the bike path in the Sepulveda Basin, that's Rec and Parks. I use the bike path bridge over the LA River, that's Bureau of Engineering. I use the, you know, bike path that's the county. I use the bike path that's the city. And so as a cyclist, you know, you use these things. And as DOT, they're sort of like, oh, well, our bike people did these ones, you know, so they don't count other departments like Bureau of Engineering. Anyway, so there's, and then they also kind of over-report and under-report and report things that don't exist and stuff. So I always like to, you know, bang on any kind of mileage report that they give us, because it's often wrong, because they don't really give a fuck about bikes. And so when they report the numbers on bikes, they don't care if they're wrong. So I do care. So yeah,
thank you.
So under Villaraigosa, mileage was like, in the 2000s, it was like 2 or 3 miles a year. Under Villaraigosa, it went to like 100 miles a year. And under Garcetti, it's gone back down to like 10 miles a year. Like it's dropped precipitously from a peak under Villaraigosa. And Selena Reynolds has said, and I'm paraphrasing, I'm not quoting, but basically that the department would focus on quality over quantity. And to some extent, under Villaraigosa, when they had a mileage mandate, they just slapped down bike lanes where they fit, whether it was out of the way or important, and not all the mile, not every mile's equal, but I mean, anyways, but when you got 100 miles, you get about 20 good miles, and when you get, you know, 10 miles a year, you get, you know, 1 or 2 good miles anyways. So it's still not, even though quantity has dropped a great deal, quality hasn't. There's some good stuff. I mean, we're doing protected bike lanes that we weren't doing under Villaraigosa, but they're, you know, few and far between and wimpy, even for protected bike lanes. But I think so. In looking at the mileage this year, in this fiscal year, which ended on July 1st or June 30th or whatever, in looking at that mileage, DOT actually stepped up a lot for what's called fiscal year 2019-2020. And the big cause for that is more, it's not like bike leadership or even DOT, it's that under COVID, repaving, what's called Bureau of Street Services, that's been rebranded as Streets LA, because they weren't giving parking tickets and people were staying at home as they should, the city wasn't ticketing, so it was difficult to repave residential streets. So Bureau of Engineering went and repaved commercial, big arterial streets, places where there is space for bike lanes and where there is need for bike lanes. A lot of residential streets are somewhat chill and don't necessarily need bike lanes and don't necessarily have enough space for it. So it's sort of a byproduct of the city repaving system that the bike lane mileage popped up somewhat. It's not great. I could pull up the numbers if you want me to talk about specifics, but there's an article at Streetsblog showing, and I guess one other thing that factored into that was there have been a series of lawsuits of largely solo bicycle crash lawsuits where people have hit a rough pavement, a pothole or something, going fast on their bikes, and then sued the city. So part of the street services, the Streets LA program, was to focus on places where there had been not just crashes but lawsuits, frankly. And so that saw some improvement in places where at least some people bike, although it's still a little bit whatever. There's some logic flaws in that the city has pledged to up repaving of bikeways, of places where there are bike lanes, and as you guys know, it's not, people on bikes like bike on every street, and so it's not always so bike facilities are getting a lot of repaving, but it's not necessarily where people are biking that's getting repaved in that priority. But anyways, overall, it's not a huge difference, but we did see a lot more bikeways, and a lot of stuff happened downtown. And I think there are some missed opportunities, but some really good facilities. There's a lot of places downtown where we're seeing a new model for streets, and which is a bike on a one-way street in downtown. You've got buses in the right lane, and in the past we put the bike lane on the right, and so you had sort of bus-bike conflict on the right side of the street. And so in a number of places, 5th and 6th Street, Olive and Grand, we've seen one-way streets where the city has put the bike lane on the left and a bus lane on the right. And I think those are those are protected bike lanes too. I mean, there's more I have some criticism that the bike lane sometimes ends before the bus lane ends when there's a pinch point. But I think we're really seeing a it's sort of a NACTO, the National Association of City Transportation, know what the O stands for, organization or something. Anyways, officials. So it's really a NACTO best practice, and I think it's long overdue for downtown LA that we take these one-way streets that used to be really optimized for driving, and now we've got them more balanced between transit, bicycling, and driving. So I think that's a good thing that's emerged. And so some of that, there's quite a few. I mean, it's all like faint praise, because it's like there's not a real network, there's not a real putting bike facilities where people need them, but the city's actually done quite a few new protected bike lanes. The ones I mentioned downtown, 7th Street got new ones. Avalon is a mixed facility, partially protected and partially buffered for like 6 miles through South LA that was largely road dieted and got bike lanes. There's some new bike lanes in the protected bike lanes in the North Valley on a street that I'm forgetting.
Reseda. Reseda.
Reseda, that's a few years old. There's a new one.
Winnetka.
Winnetka got new ones. I'll look. I'm gonna pull up the street that I'm thinking of. It's a God darn it. It's
Fallbrook or something.
Pierce
or Shoup.
College is what it's up near. What's that?
Shoup or Fallbrook or something like that. Winnetka's by Pierce College.
I think there's a lot of missed opportunities. I think there's a lot of frustration. I think the good news is that in the most recent election, we had a candidate who you guys have talked to a bunch of times, Nithya Raman, who ran on a platform of protected bus lanes, protected bikeways. So the street I'm thinking of is called Eldridge Avenue, It's way up in like Sylmar. But I mean, anyway, so there's a bunch of good facilities. They're not totally connected. It's, there's a lot we can complain about. But I think that with all the repaving and with Streets LA and LADOT committed to upgrades where they could, and where the city council member wasn't a hostile shit, like more than half the council is to bikes. The departments were able to squeeze in quite a few good facilities this year.
So if we were to just have a simple like rating system for the year in bikes in LA,
it's one of those things where like it's been so bad that the facilities that were done this year look pretty good in comparison to the dismal average that we've been faced with. I don't think it's an A by any chance, but I want to say it's it's been a D, and maybe this year it's a C or something like that. So it looks like a big improvement. It still doesn't look good. And there are some victories, but I mean, LA is a huge place. So, a dozen new quality facilities in a year is important, and places that I ride with my daughter, and Main Street downtown, 7th Street downtown. There's some really good facilities, but I mean, it's still, it's still not a network, and there's still a lot of missed opportunities. The city still, most of the council are still hostile to, road diets and to anything that could upset the, driving Uber alles. So
what about
I was going to say there's something to be said for that as a beginning. Joe, you and I have talked about how like in LA, is in the valley especially, you're on a lane and it suddenly just disappears when you get to an intersection. It's not just LA, it happens everywhere. And having that lane is a good beginning in terms of like getting people used to the idea that the lane is there, but the networking and the networking of the lanes and the intersections absolutely need to be fixed in order to get more people on bikes. So like the iffy thing is like where people will say, well, there's that bike lane, but no one's ever on it. So why should we expand this? Why should we do any more? And it's going to take getting them networked and connected so that people start riding them and see other people riding them and then get out there riding them to start a bit of a snowball effect. And I wouldn't say that we've seen a snowball effect in the Bay Area, but that issue is an ongoing issue. Like that we have the case of the disappearing bike lane all over the place, but it's getting fixed little by little by little. And there are more people out on bikes than there ever were, more people with kids on their bikes than there were even when my daughter was a little kid. She's 24 now. And I felt like I was the only one. And now it's very common for people to be out with their kids on bikes, more in COVID, but even before that. And that's partly because of that slowly growing network. So it's like it's something to think about for advocates, because the network is an important part of it. And we have to keep pushing that, even though people will say, well, look, nobody's using them. I mean, people are using them, but.
Well, that makes me want to read you guys remember the police statement about Uplift Melrose? So there was this, I'm going to pull it up so I call it like Schrodinger's bicycle. There's no bicycles and they're doing really dangerous things, So it's like.
That was something this year?
Yeah, so the police said here, this is a quote from Paulson, Shannon Paulson, LAPD Wilshire Area Commanding Officer Shannon Paulson. She says, I would also, and this is in a letter that was part of what killed this Uplift Melrose, this project to make Melrose safer and better for bicycling. She says, I think in many communities, the use of bike lanes have been exceptionally minimal to almost zero. This after surrendering very valuable vehicle traffic lanes to create them. And then she goes on to say, on Main Street downtown, where you have City Hall employees pulling out of the City Hall garage near Temple, and they look right only as additional vehicle traffic on Main Street is northbound. Yet that bike lane is two-way, so you have southbound bicycle coming along at 25 miles an hour. So she's saying nobody uses them, and the people who use them go too fast. So it's kind of Schrodinger's bicycle when people say, nobody uses bike lanes. It's like,
well, people say, like, if there was a bridge that didn't make it to the other side, would you use the bridge?
Yeah. Do you count the number of swimmers to decide where to build a bridge? Not
also,
usually.
People on bikes don't take up very much space. So people say there are no bikes when there's tons of people on bikes going by. They just don't see them because they don't take up as much space as somebody in a car.
Yeah. Well, and it's sort of confirmation bias. They don't look for them. They don't welcome them on big, dangerous streets. So bicyclists use smaller streets and neighborhoods that are safer. And then when the bicyclists get off the big streets, people on the big streets say, hey, nobody bikes on Wilshire. Well, it's like, yeah, because you made it shitty and deadly, So, but I mean, it's I think in some places though, I think in downtown LA, especially, we're seeing a network emerging, and we're not seeing massive Portland or Copenhagen levels of bicycling, but I think where facilities are useful, people are out bicycling, and where they're not, where those facilities aren't there, the intrepid few people like Roadblock and me are out there bicycling. And frankly, I'm bicycling a lot with my 7-year-old, and so I'm avoiding those big streets, but anyways, I'm trying to think of what other stories 2020 bike wise, but I mean, I think that the election gives me a lot of optimism that Nithya Raman is going to be great for bikes, and is a planner, is somebody who promised bike lanes, who says climate change is real and urgent, and that bikes are one big part of the solution for that, and that protected bike lanes are the solution. I think Holly Mitchell and Gascon and Measure J, there's a lot of good election results. Mark Ridley Thomas, Kevin De Leon, even there were a lot of people elected this year. I mean, I'm disappointed. Don and I both walked and knocked a lot for Lorraine Lundquist. It could have been even better had we gotten the Northwest Valley seat.
She's the one out in that Lee got that seat.
Yeah,
which was a hose job by the whoever was. I mean, the feds kept that indictment secret until after the election. That's completely BS.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
That would have changed. That would have completely turned the election.
Yeah, and it was pretty darn close, anyways. I mean, but we I think Bike the Vote and Streets for All have been good, but I think we as bicyclists need to really get behind candidates like Raman and Lundquist even better than we have. But I think too. So I think at the state level's not so good necessarily. I don't know. There's probably good signs there. Laura Friedman. There's folks who are certainly good. But I think at the national level that Trump has been wretched for transit funding, for has taken programs like Tiger. What's it? Do you remember the name that it's called now, Melanie? Strode or something. Anyways, I want to call
Strode.
it. It's not.
That's a derogatory term.
But it's like it was sort of under Obama. It was like innovative transportation, and it went to some highway projects, and it went to some transit projects, and rarely whatever to bike and ped and stuff. So there's sort of the big tranche of highway funding stays the same, the like fire hose, but Obama had this little hose of like, hey, we'll give some innovative grants to folks who want to do good things. Trump kept that little hose and turned it into highway pork, and in California it went to red inland counties for road widening and stuff, as if that was some kind of innovative anything. Anyway, so I think that under Biden we're going to see, he talks about needing to shift away from fossil fuels. I think that we're going to see investment in rail and transit. I mean, Trump, sat on metro subway money for more than 2 years. That delayed metro tunneling this Purple Line under Wilshire, and I think we won't see that under Biden. So I mean, I don't know. So I think that between some really good local victories and some national, some big shifts nationally, frankly, Georgia, there's a lot to have hope for on a lot of fronts, and I think transportation is one of them that significantly shifted in the November election.
Yay.
Yeah.
All right,
I'm still thinking about that Waze precedent. That's a big one, I think. I'll talk about it later. But
so you guys want to?
Yeah.
Sorry. Should we do this again next year?
Hopefully, we'll be talking about the tribes and the when the water inundated the entire floodplain because the ocean rose, to meet the forest fires. We can talk about that next year.
A few more years. Give it a couple, like 5 maybe for that.
See, but hey, let me talk about one more thing quick. Is that okay, or are we out of time?
Yeah, absolutely.
We have time.
So the big story that I really got my teeth around this year, and it centers on, or I should say, one of the protagonists is a cyclist. So we talked a little bit at the beginning about Caltrans widening highways. So Metro and Caltrans have this shitty plan called the 605 Corridor Improvement Project, which is going to spend billions of dollars. I should say is planning to spend billions of dollars to widen the 605 and especially the 5 freeway through the city of Downey, and to take out hundreds of homes, probably more than 250 homes in the city of Downey. The plan had been sort of quietly growing like cancer. Like in 2014, they studied it and said, oh, let's just take out about 80 homes. And then by this year, because nobody said 80 was too much, they came back and said, oh, well, we'll take out, 250. So plus, and what's funky is in August, they announced it. And then people like Alex Contreras sounded the alarm. And even the freeway proponents sounded the alarm and said what's called the Council of Governments said, and the I-5 Joint Powers Authority, the people who generally had been pro highway said, "Ooh, that sounds like a lot of homes you're going to take out in our neighborhoods. Can you slow down a little?" But Alex Contreras, they really sounded the alarm, and they grew up in that neighborhood. Their parents lived there. They were running for office in Downey, and really were able to make the anti-freeway widening a campaign issue and a media issue. The TV news latched onto it. I was really happy to go down there and take pictures and be one of the first media sources that supported it. But I mean, really, Twitter was where Contreras was able to make the case, and that went to the Metro board, who turned around and said, this plan that we were supposed to approve this year, we're not going to approve this, and we want you Metro Highway folks to come back next year with a new version of this that doesn't, uproot hundreds of families in Downey. So I think that's been a real. I mean, I think a lot of times bicyclists were pushing for 5 feet of pavement here and there, and as Shero, or we're pushing for some really small stuff. But I feel like the what's Caltrans budget? $55 billion, right, a year. The highway building, the amount of money that's spent on making California, paving California for drivers is a juggernaut that we need to fight tooth and nail. And I think that in Downey, people who live there really sounded the alarm, and Metro really stood up and said, okay, let's reel this in. And frankly, a lot of the language that the Metro board used was the same as they used in describing the 710 freeway tunnel, this $6 billion plan to do a tunnel under South Pasadena and El Sereno and that area. And in 2017, Metro canceled that project, and so a lot of the rhetoric really pointed to that sort of leanings on the Metro board. Folks like Hilda Solis, county supervisor, the mayor of Long Beach, Robert Garcia, really were saying, like, don't spend this money on ripping out people's homes,
especially with the housing crisis.
Yeah. So anyways, I was down there over so Caltrans and Metro are already spending $2 billion to widen the 5 freeway from the Orange County border for 7 miles, and it used to be 6 lanes when they started, and now it's going to be 12 lanes wide, although they're only going to paint 10 of them anyways. So they're doubling the footprint of this freeway, and they just are. It's really like a whole. It's really like somebody tore up streets and homes and businesses, and there's just all these emptiness places where driveways lead to vacant lots and stuff, where people used to live, where families used to live, and the freeway that used to be at grade is now this I didn't measure it, but it's like a 40-foot high sound wall, looming over these houses. It's more pollution, more noise, more death, more congestion on local streets. It's really wretched and destructive on a scale that, and you look at the shitty things that LADOT does, and to widen streets and add lanes and stuff. Fucking Caltrans wrecks neighborhoods. Caltrans is Godzilla, and DOT is like a cobra or something. So it's like I've really seen. I don't know. I feel like I need to do more reporting. I mean, the Caltrans is widening the 5 freeway through Burbank, and I think of it as sort of the 5 freeway is like this shotgun loaded, pointing at downtown LA. That says we're going to keep widening north from Orange County, and we're going to keep widening south from the valley, and we're going to blow up all the neighborhoods in East LA in Downey. I'm trying to think of all those neighborhoods. Commerce, Industry, those areas, Santa Fe Springs. I mean, there's just like, if you think, LA City politicians are car centric, Caltrans and Metro highway program have an order of magnitude more juice, more money, like bearing down at neighborhoods, like taking out homes, and that's really that's happening. So that's happening on the 5 in the Valley. That's happening on the 5 in South LA County, Southeast LA County. It's happening on the 710 freeway too, the lower 710, from the port up to Vernon. The Metro is looking to spend $6 billion to add lots of lanes and to take out homes and businesses. And so I think that's there's a guy, sorry, I'm talking a lot on this, but I think it's been a really gratifying story to amplify local concerns, to let people know. I mean, a lot of people say, oh, that Metro sales tax is the subway tax. It's like, nope, folks, it's 40% of it's going to build car-centric crap that, frankly, like we drive. I have a 3-person family. Our relatives live down in Orange County. We drive down to Orange County, and then we take the train sometimes. But we drive on this area, and I tell my daughter when we hit that construction in Downey, Norwalk, Santa Fe Springs, right at the border of Orange County, this is $2 billion that's widening this facility beyond a human scale. And this is really our generation's legacy for my daughter. This is what we're giving to the next generation, is like shitloads of cars and global warming and asthma and a dying planet, frankly, like pushing sustainability to the brink. And I don't, it's depressing, but I think we can gather and fight this. And I think even people at leadership like the Metro Board are saying that this is excessive and needs to be reined in. Mm-hmm. Anyways, that was a long soapbox, but I think it's a big story, and I think cyclists should be part of fighting this.
So is there a call to action? Like when you say fighting?
Well, there's a group that formed in Downey that focuses beyond that, called the Happy City Coalition, that folks should follow. Happy City Coalition on Twitter and whatever, on all social media. There's going to be in a month or so, probably 2 or 3 months, the Metro Board will be making a decision on whether to demolish hundreds of homes. And I think that people need to keep track of that and to weigh in on it, and to let the Metro Board know, and even state elected officials. I mean, I think the governor, and the governor does a executive order that says Caltrans needs to, Melanie, maybe help me with this, like get their projects in line with the state's climate goals. And like everybody, Metro turns around and says, "Ooh, we don't, we're not causing any climate emissions. Like that's just like people live too far from where they work. That's not us. That's not building fucking 12-lane highways where there were 6-lane highways." So anyway, so I think we need to hold state officials and local officials to rein in the excesses, and frankly, to kill these projects, and to invest in modes that we need for the future, which is, rail and bike and transit, and walking, and make those available, and not squander, billions and billions and billions on wider freeways. I mean, actually supposedly coming this month, there's the Burbank one is, years late. The Burbank 5 freeway widening is years late and well over budget, and Metro's gonna like dump another $70 million into the kitty because Caltrans overshot their budget. So I think we need to try to hold the line on funding for these and just say, like, no, you don't. You need to trim your project and not like keep gobbling up huge vast amounts of money. Anyways,
I think that gas tax is going to end up being a monster, a Frankenstein monster. They're just going to have so much money and they don't know what to do with it all. They're just going to keep building more and more and more with it.
Well, can I just say that might not be true? I mean, they have the gas tax is for specific things that they're supposed to, like each program had specific things that they were supposed to meet. And there's a lot of argument and discussion. There are a couple of programs that are creating wider highways for sure from the gas tax, but there's always a way to weigh in on that. And the more they do respond. I have seen them. So if people show up and say, no, you need to spend this money on something else, they do respond, which is why state leadership is, at least maybe lip service, I don't know, but at least they are saying, yeah, we can't keep widening freeways this way. There's policy change.
I wonder if there's an opportunity to form like a coalition with housing groups, over the housing issue. It's like, can we start a spreadsheet and figure out how much housing is planned to be removed, based on, I don't know, whatever the plans are that Caltrans has. Put a spreadsheet together and say, like, look, they're going to take away 10,000 housing units over the next 30 years. This is a big deal. Well, can we form a coalition with housing groups and put more pressure on them? Because I feel like the bike cause is sort of this, we are the powerful bike lobby in a way, but
all powerful.
Yeah, all powerful, but we're kind of get cast aside really easily by the media and whoever the other powers that be.
But I think we're seeing, yes, we can look at those plans, and that's the sort of thing that I've been reporting on the 605 corridor improvement project. But I mean, the things we're seeing is Caltrans bought all those homes for the 710 tunnel, the North 710 tunnel, and then 3 years after the project's been canceled, those homes are sitting unused, and advocates for the unhoused like occupied them, and Caltrans called in CHP and knocked some heads. And so it's like, I think we can look at the future projections, and they're very wrong-headed, but we can look at what's right in front of us now, in that Caltrans needs to be a partner in not like bucking up the housing supply like they have done for decades, and to be responsive to that, to not be destroying homes, and to do projects that have a net increase in homes. They need to look at their plans and say, let's shrink the footprint so that we're not taking out lots of homes, and anywhere where we take out one home, let's replace it with two. I think we need to get Caltrans to say, we Caltrans aren't going to be the one of the drivers of the housing crisis. So I mean, and I think that's a matter of shaming them for stuff that they're doing today, right now.
And actually, that would be, I mean, Caltrans leadership is making, lip service commitments that they are not going to do that anymore. They've made this equity statement about how we are going to look at how we have contributed to racial injustice, and we're going to change. They don't quite yet know how they are going to do that because they're such a giant organization. But the fact that they made that statement means that as advocates, we can all say, Caltrans, here's an equity problem right here that you are contributing to. You said you were going to deal with it. Here's how you deal with it. And they would actually welcome that, I think, because they need to be told how to do it. They're not like, they're not going to just build houses, like, which is a great idea, Joe, but they're not going to do it unless they're forced or shamed into doing it. But we can easily do that by pointing out to them, here's your chance.
And I think their statement is pretty darn good. Like Metro put out this, bull crap like statement on Black Lives Matter that said like someone widened some freeways, like, and then said, oh, and we, did all these good things. And then it's like, no, you widen the freeways, you are still widening them, and you're still planning to widen them. Like, so it's not, I know it's, there's a lot of, you don't have to go very far to find a crappy Black Lives Matter statement this year. But I think if you read the Caltrans statement, it's pretty conciliatory and it's saying the right things. I mean, as Melanie says, activists are going to have to hold it in front of their faces and get them to follow it. But it's actually I first saw it and I'm like, okay, I'm going to blow some holes in this. And then I thought, this is a pretty good commitment on the face of it. They thought about it and they said the right things, I think. I mean, so now to get there, whatever, to get that to filter out to what they're really doing on the ground.
And keeping in mind that the people who are creating these statements need the support of advocates to be able to do that, because they are trying to change a culture of engineers who know what the right thing is. They know what to do. They've been telling us for years that the right thing is to widen this freeway, and they're the smart guys. So the people who are trying to get them to change need us to weigh in and say whatever we can to support that change.
Yeah.
The smart engineers that I've heard from are all on bike Twitter, and they don't sound anything like that.
Yay! I love those smart engineers.
Yeah, there's.
Are you talking about Agent X? He might be listening right now.
Yeah. No, are there people who are smart engineers about bikes on Twitter, but then in their day jobs they go along with the rest of it? I mean, I don't really know if people do that, and I understand that it's really hard to speak up if you're like a lone voice, but I do know people who have spoken up, and we need everybody to speak up and say, no, this is bull crap.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need to shift from this is the way we've always done it to climate and civil rights are an emergency, that we can't keep doing what we've been doing. We need people to reevaluate. This is a huge year, and a lot of shit changed. I think you talked about gas tax. The gas tax tanked because people stopped driving, and so Caltrans is and LADOT. There's a lot of folks that are taking stock of how we've always done it, and I think it's a ripe time, and folks like Nithya Raman, folks like Holly Mitchell can now's a good time to make some change, because I think COVID and I think the Black Lives Matter movement have gotten people to take a look at things and say, ooh, somebody's got a point here. And so I think it is an important moment right now to reevaluate how we've always done things, and to realign budgets and designs, and I think that's the small marginal silver lining on the deadly shitstorm that is COVID, and that is killing of African Americans, of Black population by police. I mean, there's a lot that we're doing wrong that we can change now, because movements have worked to bring those issues to the fore.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a lot of opportunity to build a coalition with like Sunrise Movement and housing groups to increase the pressure on, like Caltrans and LADOT and so forth. It's just, I don't think there's been a lot of communication between like the bike advocates and these other movements. I don't feel like there's a lot of coordination between them. Like, I feel like we could tie housing into this and climate change into this and get those groups, which are very powerful voices, thinking about transportation. I don't see a lot of thought on transportation from, like, say, the Sunrise
You're overlooking
movement.
the people, Don, who have been doing that work. Folks like People for Mobility Justice, folks like Tamika Butler have been making connections between housing and transportation. And I mean, they're not, it's not exactly the way I would like to do it.
Well, I mean, what I'm talking about is like messaging from Sunrise Movement. Like, I never see messaging from Sunrise Movement that's saying we need to drive less. And maybe I'm not paying attention to the right channels or something, but it's like, I don't see a lot of it when it comes down to like car driving.
Have you read Nithya Raman's website?
Yeah, but I'm talking about the Sunrise Movement, right? Like, that is a national movement.
Where did she get her strength? I mean, that's what.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, I think there are leaders who are saying there's a climate crisis, there's a housing crisis.
Although I don't think. I mean,
and that we need to work on those, and that those are connected, and that we need to, to shorthand it, like, we need to fight the man that's fucking those up, and those issues are connected. The Green New Deal, bikes,
I mean,
jobs,
okay,
it's housing, it's there's people who are making those connections, who are running on those. So
right.
I think it's in front of your face, Don. I think, join
I mean,
the movement.
I consume a lot of media, and I see a lot of Sunrise Movement activists in my feed who are my friends, and transportation is not on their list of things. Like, when it comes to transportation, I even see arguments that say, like, well, the gas tax is regressive, that it affects poor folks who, have to pay more to commute to a crappy job. Like, I want to see, I mean, maybe I'm missing it. Yeah. But it's like, is Sunrise Movement putting pressure on Caltrans? Is, our housing advocates putting pressure on Caltrans? Like, that's what I'm talking about. I want to get those kind of voices into the room with Caltrans and amplify the pressure that we're trying to put on them as transit advocates. Like, I'm looking at the Sunrise Movement's website right now, and I don't see anything about transportation. I'm looking, and there's nothing about transportation in here that I'm seeing off the front of the website. But I'll look into it more. But I think if you look at the candidates who the Sunrise Movement supports, Nithya Raman is the one that's I keep saying. No, I mean, Nithya Raman's great. I'm talking about getting into the room with Caltrans.
Those candidates are saying that we need to shift away from the fossil fuel economy that we've been talking about, that bicycling is one big part of the solution to. I think rather than sorry, I feel like I'm shitting on you, Don. But I mean,
I have thick skin. Don't worry about it.
For purity, I think you need to look and say the Sunrise Movement is saying global warming exists and that a Green New Deal is important. And I think
but do you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't see a lot of the conversation.
That's where we're coming from, and that's where we can work together.
But what I'm not seeing is the direct connection. Like, okay. Just in the media that I consume. Oh, wait, hang on. Media that I'm consuming.
Melanie, do you want to go eat, Melanie?
No, I want Don to take this on. I want Don to be the one to make this connection for people. You clearly can see it. I think you need to go and talk to your friends in the Sunrise Movement.
I mean, yeah, it's a lot of times when I'm talking to folks, when I talk to folks that are part of this movement, at least in the Los Angeles area, transportation is not something that's on their minds. You know, that's what I'm just saying. Like,
You take it for granted.
I think there's a lot of gaslighting with it. It's like, you know, it's like, it's that thing where like cars are just so ingrained in us that I think there's a lot of lefties that are like, well, wait a minute, you're taking away car lanes, you're making things harder for poor people, you know? And it's like, okay, what's the goal here? Like, are we serious about climate change, or, you know, then we need to come up with solutions so that poor folks don't have to buy, you know, thousands of dollars worth of transportation equipment to get around. I don't see a lot of these. I don't know. Maybe I'm just not looking in the right places. I'll look into it.
But I think we can find that common ground with Sunrise Movement.
Absolutely.
And I think that
I just think that we haven't yet.
It's better to, you know, look for common cause and to I think the connections you're making between, you know, freeway building and housing those are important, and that's the place where we build coalitions and we become more effective.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just saying I haven't seen it happen yet. I mean, I don't doubt that we can make it happen. It's just I'm not seeing. You know, I'll look into it. Right. Sunrise Movement. What's your transportation policy? Let's figure it out from their website or something. But I just haven't seen it yet.
Thank you, everybody. It's been a great year.
Thank you.
No, it hasn't. Wait. Hold on. Let me
Wait, did we determine what the best story of 2020 was for bikes? Have we figured that out yet? I'm still voting for that Waze, the little Waze thing that Michael got going.
We'll do it next episode.
Okay.
Thank you, Joe. Right. Thank you, Melanie.
Thank you, guys.
That was fun.
Thanks, guys.
All right. Take care.
Bye.
Care.
See you guys. Climate policy. I'm on this website. I'm going to find this. There we go. I'm saving the planet, just like my friends Dale, Sean, Toby, and Janet. No greenhouse gas, a tiny carbon footprint up your ass. Motherfucking bike. Okay, wait. Cut the music for a second. We're getting into the...
Thanks for listening to this episode of Bike Talk. If you want to hear more, go to kpfk.org, navigate to programs, and choose Bike Talk. On the Bike Talk page, click on the archives link to play or download shows posted in the last 4 months. Go to biketalk.com and copy or click on the RSS link to subscribe. Our Twitter handle is BikeTalkPFK. On Facebook, we are Bike Talk. You can become friends and join our group.
I want to become friends with Bike Talk.